everyone, it's Amanda from Loops and Love Crochet, and today I have a video tutorial for you on working up this Mosaic Zig Zag Crochet pouch here. You can find the written pattern free on the blog, loopsandlovecrochet.com, and this video tutorial is meant to go along with the written pattern on the blog, so be sure to check that out. And this little bag also has a zipper that I just did a quick hand sew to sew it in. If you want to see how to sew the zipper in, I have another video on my channel that shows how to sew the zipper in this bag. And as you can see, this bag is not lined right now, but if you'd like to add a lining to your little pouch, you can also check out another video on my YouTube channel that shows how to add a lining to a little crochet pouch as well. All of these videos, and as well as the free pattern on the blog, you can find the links in the details in this video to make them nice and easy to find for you. So for this pattern, I used worsted weight cotton yarn. I'm using the We Crochet Shine yarn here. And for this next bag, I'll be using purple, light purple, and gray. You can use any worsted weight cotton or acrylic yarn for your bag, but this is just what I'm using for this project here. And I'm also using a 4mm crochet hook. So I'll let you get your yarn and crochet hook and we'll get started. Okay, so the first step in this pattern here is we're going to make a starting chain of 32 stitches here. So I have my slip knot attached to my hook here, and I'm just going to be working a chain of 32. So this is going to be for the base of the bag. So this bag is worked from the bottom to the top. So we'll just keep on going until we get to 32. Okay, and then the next step, we're going to work 2 single crochet stitches into the second chain from the hook. So we'll skip this one here that's right beside the one on our hook, and we'll work in the second chain from the hook, and we're going to work 2 single crochet stitches, and then in each of the other stitches across here until we get to the very last one, we're going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch. So we'll just work across, putting 1 single crochet in each stitch. So just like this all the way across, and when we get to the last stitch of the row here, when we get to the very last one, I'll show you what to do there. Okay, so here we are at the last stitch of the row here. You can see this one last chain waiting here for us to work into it. We're going to work 4 single crochet stitches into that one stitch there, and it's going to kind of go around the end of the chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I kind of just worked around the end of the chain there. So it kind of went just in a little kind of semicircle there, our 4 stitches. And I've started working over the yarn tail as well. So I'll continue to work over that. So now that we did our 4 stitches at the end there, we're now working on the other side of the chain. And we're going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way across until we get to the very last stitch here, which is the same one that we worked 2 stitches in to start with. So we'll be working 1 single crochet in each stitch here, and these ones are going to be in the chain, so directly across from the single crochet stitches we worked on the other side of the chain. So we'll keep going like this all the way until we get to the very last chain stitch, or the very last stitch at the end, and then I'll show you what to do there. Okay, so now we're back here at the other end. You can see that there's just the 1 stitch left here where we worked 2 single crochet stitches to start with. We're going to work 2 single crochet stitches in that last stitch. And then we're going to join to the first single crochet of the round here with a slip stitch. And I'm going to pull that slip stitch nice and tight there. Now I started working, or I finished working over the the end here, the tail. So I'm gonna just cut that. So here is the bottom part of our bag here. So we did the 4 single crochet stitches on the one end, and then when we have the 2 that we started with and the 2 that we ended with on the other end, that works out to 4 stitches around the other end as well to keep both ends even. And now we're going to start working up the next round here. So I'm going to start with a chain 1, and I'm also going to pull that chain 1 quite tight just to prevent my seam from traveling. And then I'm going to start out with just working single crochet stitches in each stitch. So you're going to continue along just like this, working 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch around. And you're going to go all the way around the whole base here, all the way back on the bottom part. And then you're going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch again, chain 1, pulling both of those tight, and then you'll work another round of single crochet stitches. So as you can see here, you have all of the rounds of single crochet stitches in the gray here. So we had our base at the very bottom, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds of single crochet. So we're going to work up those 5 rounds of single crochet. It's just 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch with the join and chain 1 pull tight at the end of each round, or the start of each round, sorry. And we're going to do 5 rounds of that, and then I'll meet you back here and we'll move on to the Mosaic crochet section. I'll give you the explanation for that and show you the graph. For the next part of this pattern here, we're going to be using the graph to work up the Mosaic crochet section. So this graph is what I use to work up the pattern in the middle of this bag here, working up the bag, I guess the body of the bag kind of. And so in the Mosaic crochet technique, I'm using this graph here, and each row on this graph represents 2 rows in your crocheted work. So usually in a Mosaic crochet pattern, you'd follow the first row of the graph all the way to the end of your project and then all the way back. We're going to be repeating each row twice because I'm not turning this crochet project. This bag is worked with the right side facing you the whole time, worked in the round. So we're just going to work each row twice before we go to the next row here on the graph. So it'll be, so if you can see here, on here we did 2 rows of the pink, 2 rows of the light pink, 2 rows of the dark pink, 2 rows of the light pink, and each 2-row section represents 1 row on this graph here. So our first section here, we're going to be working in the main color, which I'm going to be using dark purple for this bag here. And each row here, the first stitch of the row shows you which color you're going to be working with for that whole row. So we're not going to be changing colors in the middle of any of the rows. We're going to be changing color at the end before we work the next row in the new color. So the first 2 rows are going to be worked in the main color, which is the purple color, and we're going to work it 2 times. So row 1 will be worked once and then twice before we go over to row number 2. Now we'll start with 5 single crochets. Each box represents a single crochet stitch, and then every time you're working in your row, so if you're working with your main color, every time you come to a stitch of a different color in your row, you're going to chain in order to skip that stitch, and then you're going to work again with your 5 single crochets in your main color, and then you're going to chain again to skip this stitch. And the reason why we're skipping that stitch is that these X's, they're representing where the Mosaic double crochet stitch is going to come down in front of the other stitches. So you're kind of setting up for the Mosaic double crochet stitches. So as you can see here, I worked my 5 stitches in the dark pink, and then I have the Mosaic double crochet stitch that comes down from 2 rounds above. So we'll just chain to skip that stitch in there, and then the light pink comes down in front, and then we have 5 of the dark pink again, and then we skip that next stitch, which will be a mosaic double crochet again. So all those skip stitches are where the mosaic double crochet stitches will be, forming that pattern there. And it's always important to chain one more stitch than what you're skipping. So if we're skipping one stitch here each time, we're going to be chaining 2 each time, just because the chain stitches, they might not be as big as your single crochet stitch, and we want to make sure that our bag stays the same width the whole way up and doesn't get wider for the mosaic crochet rows. So the first thing we're going to start with here is we're going to work 5 single crochet stitches in the dark purple, or whatever main color you're using, and then we'll chain 2 to skip this stitch, and then 5 single crochet, and then chain 2 to skip this stitch, and we're going to work in the dark purple the whole way across. And because I just did my color change, I do have a couple yarn tails here, so I'm going to work over them a little bit too. You can also choose to weave them in later if you like as well. So it'll start with the first stitch of the round, which is the first stitch as the slip stitch and the chain 1. And I'll start with my 5 single crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then because we have the next spot on the chart or on the graph is a white box, we're going to skip that. So I'm going to chain 2 to skip it. So chain 1, chain 2, skipping that next stitch, I'm going to work 5 single crochet stitches again. And by skipping those stitches there, we're setting up for the mosaic crochet part of this design here. Those mosaic double crochet stitches. So I did my next 5 single crochet stitches. Again, we'll chain 2, and then another 5 single crochet stitches. And I'm just working over those yarn tails, but we're not going to see them once we work those mosaic double crochet stitches in front. There we go. So that's what that should look like there. So I'm just going to cut these yarn tails here because I'm done working over them, and then they'll be out of the way. There, so now we can see what that's going to look like there. So 5 single crochet, chain 2, skip a stitch, 5 single crochet, chain 2, skip a stitch, all the way around the bag. And when you get back to the other end, we'll join to the first stitch, and then we're actually going to be repeating it over again, because remember, we work each row twice before we move on to the next row. So I'll work up these 2 rows. So it's just the same row, repeat it twice, and then I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll show you how to work the next section here. Okay, so I'm just about done with that second row. That's going to make up the first row of the graph here. So you can see here the chain 2 spaces in between the 5 single crochet stitches, and since I just repeated the same row twice, my chain 2 stitches from the top row line up with the chain 2 stitches of the bottom row there, and then you can see the gray stitch that I skipped each time as well. So now we're going to move on to the next row of the graph here. So it's going to require us to do a color change because we're going to be working on a row in the accent color here, and the same as it was for the bottom row. In this row here, working in lighter color, every box that's in the white represents 1 single crochet in the white or in the color you're using, and then every time you get to a box of a different color, so like this pink box here, you're going to chain 2 to skip that box. Okay, and then you're going to skip that stitch, and then that's when we get to the next row, there's going to be a mosaic double crochet stitch coming down in between. So you'll do 4 white, chain 2, and then when you see the stitches with an X, that's showing our mosaic double crochet stitch. So that's when you work the mosaic double crochet stitch, which is going to come down in between the stitch that you skipped in the previous part here. So I'll show you how that works up. So 4 single crochet, chain 2, mosaic double crochet, 4 single crochet, chain 2, mosaic double crochet. So I'm just going to work the color change first. So again, I work the color changes at the end of the round there. So I'm going to chain 2 because I just finished my 5 single crochet stitches. So I need to do my chain 2 that comes after. And now I'm going to grab my next color here. I'm going to place it on my hook and pull it through, and I'll just pull that tight with the main color here too. And now I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round here. And I'll pull that slip stitch tight. I'm going to pull that purple end tighter too, just because it got kind of loose there. And then I'll chain 1, pull that chain 1 nice and tight. And then I'll start off with that part of the graph that we just talked about there, the 4 single crochet. So I'll work in the same stitch that I did my chain 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then so there's my 4, and then I'll chain 2 to skip that pink stitch. So chain 2. And then I'm going to work a mosaic double crochet stitch over top of these chains here where we chain 2 in those purple stitches there. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch that I skipped, and then I'm going to pop my hook back out again in front of those chain stitches. So just in front of the chain stitches, and then I'll complete the rest of my double crochet. So I pulled up my loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So there's my first mosaic double crochet stitch there. And that's right over top of those chain stitches, and then working in the top of the single crochet stitches, I'll work my next 4 just regular single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again I need to chain 2 to skip the next stitch. 1, 2. And then I'm at the chain 2 spot from the previous rows there, so I'm going to work another mosaic double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into the top of that stitch that we skipped before. So you're going to go through both loops at the top of the stitch, and then you're going to come back out in front of the project, and I'm yarning over in front of those chain stitches, pull up my loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then again, we'll repeat our 4 single crochet stitches, making sure you're working the single crochet stitches in the top of the single crochet ones from the previous row. You're not working them where the chain stitches are. There we go, chain 2, and then mosaic double crochet. And a mosaic double crochet is pretty much like a regular double crochet. The only difference is that you're working it in front of those chain stitches instead of behind. And I'll show you what this looks like here. So there we go, that's what it's looking like so far, just the same as in the bottom part of this bag here. And we're going to continue working that all the way around. And then for our second time working this row, we're not going to work the mosaic double crochet stitches on the second way across. So when we repeat this row, instead of doing those X's for the mosaic double crochet, we'll just replace those with a regular single crochet. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like, but we'll just be going exactly the same as what we're doing, just no mosaic double crochet. It'll be 4 single crochet, chain 2, 5 single crochet, chain 2, 5 single crochet, chain 2. So I'll show you what it looks like after those 2 rows are worked up. Okay, so the second row here of the graph is done because I have 2 rows of my crocheted work here. So in the first part, I worked those mosaic double crochet stitches, where those stitches placed with an X are on the graph here. And then for the second row, I just worked single crochet stitches where the mosaic double crochet stitches are. And my chain stitches are still there. Your chain stitches should be just sitting flat right on top of each other here, and those are where the mosaic double crochet stitches in the main color are going to come down, because we have mosaic double crochet stitches in both the lighter color and the darker color. So the next step here is going to be to do the color change and then continue on to row 3 of the graph here. So my last stitch here was a single crochet into the top of the mosaic double crochet there. I'm just going to pull that out because I need to do my color change. So I'm going to work that single crochet up right up to the last yarn over. Now I've kept my main color yarn attached so I can just pull it up whenever I need it because you won't see it because it's inside of the bag. So you can feel free to do that too, or you can cut it and weave it in each time as well. Just makes more ends to weave in. Now I'm going to join to the first stitch with a slip stitch, pull it tight, chain 1, pull that tight, and then for this next row of the graph here, we're working in the main color again, so row 3, and you can see it starts with 3 pink boxes, so that's 3 single crochet stitches, and then we have a white box, and then we have an X. So remember those white boxes are where we chain 2 to skip that stitch, and the X's are where we do a mosaic double crochet stitch. Okay, so it'll be single crochet, 3 single crochet, chain 2, mosaic double crochet, 4 single crochet, chain 2, mosaic double crochet, 4 single crochet. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So we'll start off with our 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then we got to skip that white box there, so we'll chain 2 and skip the next stitch, and then we're going to work a mosaic double crochet in front of these chain stitches here. So just as I was working them in the other color, it's the same thing, working them in front of the chain stitches, and then we'll work our next 4 single crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll chain 2, and then mosaic double crochet down here, and then chain or single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2, and then mosaic double crochet. And there we go. So that's what that round is starting to look like there. You can see we're starting to get that zigzag pattern a little bit. So we'll continue this round as it is with the single crochet and the mosaic double crochet, and then once you do your join and chain 1, you'll repeat the round again, but you'll be working single crochet stitches in the top of the mosaic double crochet. You're not going to mosaic double crochet again on the second round. And then we're going to continue working up the rest of this bag here, this pouch, exactly how we are. So then once we do those 2 rows for the darker color, you'll work in the lighter color again, doing the exact same thing we did down here, where you'll start with 2 single crochet in the light color, and then chain 2, mosaic double crochet, 4 single crochet, chain 2, mosaic double crochet, and then all the way in the second time you do that row 2. Now the only thing I want to point out on the graph here is row 6 here of the graph. That one's going to be, this box here looks a little bit different than ones that you've seen before. It's actually a white box. You're going to be starting that row in the lighter color, but I have the pink outline around the box because the next row, the mosaic double crochet, will come down over top of those chain stitches there. Okay, so you'll start out with a chain 2 in the light color, and then a mosaic double crochet, and then a chain 4 or single crochet 4, and then chain 2, mosaic double crochet, 4 single crochet, chain 2, mosaic double crochet. But you're starting off the round with chain 2, so that's just why it looks a little bit different. And then the rest of it's worked up the same. And I'm going to meet you back up here on row 9. And we'll work that row up there at the top, and then we'll be switching back to our main color again. And if you have any trouble along the way, definitely check out the written pattern, because I do write the instructions for each row as well, in case you want to know how many single crochet, how many chains, how many mosaic double crochet. I do have them written out in the pattern just to make it a little bit easier as well. Okay, here is this little Mosaic Zig Zag bag worked up all the way to the top here. So I finished up that Mosaic Crochet section in the middle here, and then I just added 3 rounds of single crochet in the gray color at the top, just like I used at the bottom here. And now all that's left to do is I'm going to be weaving in this end here, and then I'll add a zipper to this bag and maybe a lining as well. Again, you can find this written pattern on the blog, loopsandlovecrochet.com, and I also have the video tutorial for sewing in the zipper to the bag on my YouTube channel too, so you can check that out. And I also have a video tutorial for sewing in a lining to a crochet bag like this, as well as adding a fun little tassel to the zipper if you'd like as well. So I'll add all of those links in the information of this video. And otherwise, I'd love it if you subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow Loops and Love Crochet on Facebook and on Instagram. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.